Singapore. Backed by an extensive network of partners globally, Global Connect at SPF delivers a comprehensive suite of services to support you on your journey. Join the other Singapore companies who had successfully expanded overseas. Embark on that journey now. Contact Global Connect at SPF today. Global economic climate, companies should consider venturing overseas to capture new opportunities, enhance business competitiveness, and achieve sustainable growth. Internationalization is a journey, starting from identifying the right market for expansion, to strengthening your capabilities, to taking that first step into the market. However, the journey is not always smooth sailing. Along the way, you will need the right resources and support. Help is at hand. Introducing Global Connect at SPF, the partner for Singapore companies looking to go global. Regardless of your internationalization journey, Global Connect at SPF can help. Established with the support of Enterprise Singapore, backed by an extensive network of partners globally, Global Connect at SPF delivers a comprehensive suite of services to support you on your journey. Join the other Singapore companies who had successfully expanded overseas. Embark on that journey now. Contact Global Connect at SPF today. Changing global economic climate, companies should consider venturing overseas to capture new opportunities, enhance business competitiveness, and achieve sustainable growth. Internationalization is a journey, starting from identifying the right market for expansion, to strengthening your capabilities, to taking that first step into the market. However, the journey is not always smooth sailing. Along the way, you will need the right resources and support. Help is at hand. Introducing Global Connect at SPF, the partner for Singapore companies looking to go global. Regardless of your internationalization journey, Global Connect at SPF can help. Established with the support of Enterprise Singapore, backed by an extensive network of partners globally, Global Connect at SPF delivers a comprehensive suite of services to support you on your journey. Join the other Singapore companies who had successfully expanded overseas. Embark on that journey now. Contact Global Connect at SPF today.
Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Just a note, speaker, can you all see my screen? Is it good?
Yes, yes. Oh, good.
Okay, cool.
Yes,
Okay, good morning. Okay, good morning to all the speakers. Thank you for take your time to attend this event. So this event is being organized by Enterprise Singapore and also Singapore Business Federation and supported by Katadata and also Xingqiang. In our previous webinar, we have a good insight about doing business in Indonesia. And today, by a lot of requests, so we decided to have more panelists who have a good experience about Indonesian market, and some of the Singaporeans are based in Indonesia. We have gone through tough time this past few months, tough time. Going global is still a good option for us to explore as to sustain our revenue. And looking at Indonesia, in fact, 267 million people, and including almost 60% millennials, is abundance of opportunity. And having said that, but you really need to understand in-depth understanding of their business culture, which later our panelists will share more on that. Indeed, this circuit breaker has made a big impact to us. But phase by phase, slowly the economy is opening up. Hence, today with all the combined experience from all the panelists, yeah. Guys, can you say hello for a while? Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you so much. So, participants, just chill and relax, get a coffee, and we have a good sharing session. And at the same time, Katadata will do the presentation by Dr. Amri, and then also by Pak Amal. Pak David is the Katadata Vice President, who will do a bit of introduction of Katadata. Before we move forward, okay, please guys, you have any question, drop into our Q&A box. And then this is a new initiative. We have a one-on-one advisory from our Global Connect. So any of SMEs down there, you need any help, you need any advice or any recommendation or any business matching, please scan the QR code and then make a booking so we can get in touch with you guys. All right. Move ahead. We have this COVID-based helpline. So we will help companies in Singapore to navigate, all various government fund and also support due to this COVID-19, and also the latest budget, the Fortitude budget, 33 billion. Please do call us if you need any help. We'll be there, Singapore Business Federation, under the COVID-based helpline. Please take note the number. And also, don't worry, this presentation we will send out to you guys after you fill up the feedback form. Next. We also have the Manpower Connect. We have companies who have an over of manpower. And in fact, this service is free of charge until August. So please do contact us if you need help. So what happens is that SMEs have over manpower. We will try to tie up with companies that need the extra manpower. So in a way that we will help each other to cut costs and also to get more manpower on the other side who need it. All right. Thank you very much. Next. Global Connect, as you can see the video just now, will help your international journey. So like I said, if you need any help, do scan the QR code, or later I will share the link so that you can book for the one-on-one advisory. We also have overseas market workshop where we help Singapore companies to have experience in overseas, have an understanding of the market, and at the same time we also have a trade show where we help companies to venture in overseas to attend the trade show. And also we have this upcoming ASEAN Live webinar. Please take note. We have the Indonesia, your next manufacturing destination on 17 June. And then on the 22 June, we have the technology and talent trend ahead. Then also we have the Malaysia Sarawak business matching at 24 June. You can find all these webinar in our portal, and please take a look. Thank you very much. Okay, now we go to our panel of speakers. Later they will introduce a bit of themselves. We have Mr. Kai, CEO from TokoCrypto, and he also a member of Xingchen, heading the membership division. Mr. Kai, you there? Hello, Mr. Kai.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah. Hope you're doing good. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Next, Jimmy Yap from CNPLaw. So maybe some of you have some question in terms of regulation, on your contract management, in Indonesia. Please drop us a question in the Q&A box. Next, we have Farid from Havana, and also from FaridMN Asia Mandiri. Farid, hello, Farid.
Hey, hi. Here.
Hi. Okay, we also have Mulya Amri, research director from Katadata Insight Center, and also Amal Ihsan, the editor at Katadata. Morning. Thank you, Dr. Amri. They will later give an introduction about themselves. Okay, before we start, we are from Enterprise Singapore, who will give an opening address in regards to today's webinar. From Mr. Yao Sheng from Enterprise Singapore, is a regional director of country desk in Indonesia. Mr. Yao Sheng, I will stop sharing my screen. How are you, Mr. Yao Sheng?
Good. Hi,
Good.
everybody.
Yeah, maybe I hand over to you right now. Yeah.
Okay, sounds great.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Yao Sheng, and I'm the Regional Director from Enterprise Singapore, based in Jakarta. First of all, I'd like to thank SBF for inviting me to participate in this event, to be amongst a panel of very experienced businessmen and market experts to hear their views about Indonesia. And I'm very glad also to be able to share some of my thoughts about Indonesia this morning. So Indonesia announced its first cases of COVID-19 on 2nd March. And since then, like many other countries, Indonesia had to move very quickly to deal with the spread of COVID-19, which started as a healthcare issue, but then eventually evolved into a larger economic challenge. So fast forward 3 months from then, where is Indonesia now? How Indonesia is responding? And what are some of the interesting observations and business trends that COVID-19 has brought to Indonesia? These are the 3 questions that I will try to address in my sharing today. So what has happened to Indonesia for the last few months? The total number of COVID-19 positive cases in Indonesia has reached close to 29,000, with around the death toll of about 6%. We are looking at the first quarter economic growth, which is a 19-year low of about 2.9%. Household consumption is also at all-time low, about 2.84% in the first quarter. And if you compare this to 5% in the same period last year, this is indeed one of the lowest we have seen so far. On investments, however, this is a rather encouraging piece of news because total investment managed to grow 8% year on year in the first quarter. But if you actually break down the growth, it is actually bolstered largely by domestic investment because foreign domestic investment has actually fell about 9.2% in the first quarter. Now, it is important to highlight the state of household consumption and investments because they make up 55% and around 30% of Indonesia's total GDP. So you have to appreciate that the large-scale social restrictions introduced by the Indonesia government to curb COVID-19 is actually a very, very bold one. And because the measures have very big impact on employment, productivity, and economy, the government has also rolled out a stimulus package close to US 50 billion to strengthen healthcare, bolster consumer spending, and to save jobs. Now, in addition to consumption and investment, you might also ask, what about trade and exports? How is Indonesia coping in this regard? To give some context, Indonesia's top exports in 2019 were coal and palm oil, and these 2 commodities alone contributed a quarter of the country's total export value. We all know that COVID-19 has weakened the global demand, and this has great impact on commodity prices. Therefore, a huge part of Indonesia's exports is also going to depend a lot on the recovery of global economies. And we can only hope the sooner, the better. So given the economic situation, what does it mean and what can we expect? From my viewpoint, with social restrictions putting immense pressure on Indonesia's economy, it is very clear why certain segments within Indonesia is pushing for the relaxation of restrictions, and the government have plans to do so in time to come. I'm not the expert to comment on when and how fast the opening should be, but it is clear to me that the government will need to strike a balance between the opening up and instilling confidence in the market. The confidence needs to come through in 2 ways. Firstly, on the consumption front, consumers need to feel safe to go out, which will then give the economy a greater boost. Secondly, on the investment front, investors need to feel confident about the prospects of Indonesia. And a huge part of this will depend on the government's response in dealing with COVID-19 and making sure its people are healthy and productive. With this balance between opening up and instilling confidence managed well, I believe Indonesia will recover and pick itself up from COVID-19. Indeed, COVID-19 has brought about major disruptions to communities and businesses. But if we take a step back and look at the situation, there are some interesting trends and opportunities arising from this pandemic. My take to some of these observations in Indonesia, and I must say some of these trends are not only unique to Indonesia, is that fundamentally what is driving these trends are actually behavioral changes. And I see behavioral changes split between 2 categories, corporate and consumer behavioral changes. At the corporate level, my view is that most of the behavioral changes are driven by government regulations. Now, telecommuting has become a norm, and video conference is quite a norm now. On average, I have about 10 online meetings a week. And to some degree, this has increased my productivity because I do not have the challenge of fighting Jakarta's traffic. But on the other hand, some of my friends in the manufacturing sector tell me that productivity has gone down 20, 30%, and even more because of social distancing measures that manufacturers have to put in place. So you can tell from here that corporate behaviors have adjusted significantly to government regulations, and whether or not such behaviors were sustained, my sense is that this will depend on how long government regulations will maintain. The Indonesia culture is one that places strong emphasis on communal spirit, and physical interaction is something that's deeply ingrained in the DNA. So a part of me is quite skeptical about the longevity of corporate behaviors. But on the consumer level, a major trend, and this is observed in many other countries, is what I call the stay-home effect. Pre-COVID-19, e-commerce food deliveries are already very prevalent in larger cities. But what COVID-19 did was to reinforce these behaviors and accelerate the growth of e-commerce even more. So for the last 2 months, people have stayed at home because of social restrictions. But with the relaxation of restrictions, the question is, will behaviors go back to pre-COVID days? In my chat with some of the several e-commerce and brick and mortar players, many of them tell me that it is likely that COVID-19 have already fundamentally shifted behaviors. And this will result in making consumers a lot more sticky to online purchasing. Indonesia during the recovery phase is one where offline retail will be very significant, but they will still face a very strong pressures from the online platforms. So to round out on my sharing, I hope I've given everyone a snapshot on how Indonesia is coping with COVID-19 now, both at the macro and micro level. But Indonesia is a huge country, and I think we need to appreciate the challenges that the government has been facing so far, and the delicate balance that they need to pursue between curtailing the spread of COVID-19 and to ensure a safe environment for businesses to reopen. There are indeed urgent needs from the businesses and the people seeking to sustain livelihoods, but I think the government is also weighing between short-term reliefs and long-term sustainability. I'm a strong believer that eventually Indonesia will emerge steadily and recover from COVID-19. I would like to also add that Enterprise Singapore's offices in Indonesia, both in Jakarta and Surabaya, continues to be actively facilitating Singapore companies' business interests in the country. So please feel free to check in with any one of us at Enterprise Singapore or with SBF Global Connect should you need any assistance or advice pertaining to your business plans. I look forward to learning from this insightful sharing from the panelists, and I wish everyone a very fruitful morning session this morning. Thank you. I'll pass it on back to Shan.
Thank you, Mr. Yap. Thank you so much for the introduction. Okay, before we go ahead with the presentation from Katadata, we go from on the left side, Mr. Farid. Maybe you can give a brief introduction about yourself first, Mr. Farid, please.
Okay, sure. Thank you, Sham. Hi, everyone. My name is actually FaridMN. I'm Singaporean based in Jakarta for the past 8 years. I have a FaridMN Labs, which is a venture builder for the past 15 years. With 3 exited startups in Malaysia and Indonesia. I last co-founded my 3rd startup and venture built and sold a fintech company in Indonesia, and grew because it grew from 100,000 US revenue to a 12 million revenue over a period of 3 years. And currently I play a role with a Malaysian-based social commerce platform, Avana, as their chief strategy officer to scale up their business in Asia Pac. Using FaridMN Labs venture build methodology. In addition, FaridMN Labs is also a market rep and go-to-market partner for ST Engineering Electronics in Malaysia and Indonesia for their public safety and security products, working partnerships with the telco industry and both with the government-linked companies in those countries. That's from me.
Thank you, Farid. So in the future, you can join us for the advisory session as a partner, yeah?
Sure. Sure. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Jimmy from CNPLaw. Jimmy, please, Jimmy, you got a nice batik.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Yeah, I'm
morning,
a practicing lawyer in Singapore, close to 30 years. So my focus is on Singapore-Indonesia transactions, particularly in the field of mergers, acquisitions, legal due diligence, and market entry into Indonesia as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Jimmy. And then next, we have a representative from Singapore Chamber of Commerce in Indonesia, and also CEO of PT TokoCrypto, Mr. Kai, please.
Hi guys, good morning. Good morning everyone that's tuning in right now. Yeah, my name is Kai. I'm the founder and CEO for TokoCrypto, the most trusted cryptocurrency exchange in Indonesia, being the first that got our regulations approved by, got our registration approved by the Commodities and Derivatives Exchange in Indonesia, BAPEPTI. I'm also sitting on the governing council for the Singapore Chamber of Commerce. The Singapore Chamber of Commerce is a chamber that is that we have the Singapore ambassador to Indonesia as our patron, and we are in a unique position to play the liaison role between the Singapore business community and the Singapore government, and between the Singapore business community our objectives are to provide an opportunity for all Singapore business interests in Indonesia to participate. We also have a lot of events that we host on a monthly basis. Of course, now with the COVID situation, these events have been pushed back, but stay tuned. If you guys want to have interest in coming into Indonesia, stay tuned. Tune into our website to find out the latest events that's going on. We also have this monthly drinking catch-up session that we'll look to resuming it once this COVID situation comes to pass. So yeah, that's a little bit more about myself. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Kai. Global Connect and CNChem will sure work together in the future because coming soon, Global Connect, we have an office in Indonesia. So we're going to work closely with CNChem to help SMEs company going overseas together with Enterprise Singapore. Thanks, Mr. Kai. So we'll catch up again after the Q&A session. And then next, by the way, your jacket look good and you looking good, Mr. Kai. We have next one, a good-looking guy, Vice President of Katadata, Mr. David. Please give a brief introduction about Katadata.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much, Young. Hi, everyone again. Thank you very much for being here and providing a chance for have a chat with you guys. I'm very excited to be able to meet all the business men and women from Singapore who are willing to or even interested to come to Indonesia. So let us provide a bit of a background of who we are. So let me bring up my presentation. Okay. And everyone, yeah. I hope everyone can see it clearly.
Yeah.
Okay. So Katadata Indonesia is a media company founded in 2012. So it's around 8 years ago. So we bootstrapped basically, started from zero. So by doing very diligently, we managed to get quite a big investment around 2 or 3 years ago. And therefore, after that, katadata.co.id, which is the one on the left, is now well known as the top economic and business media platform. So we focus really in data journalism, investigative journalism, and really insights. Yeah. So now Katadata itself has 3 different business units. So the first one is the one on the left, which the one that a lot of people understand a lot and probably get most attention is katadata.co.id. So that's the journalism side. So which is, we are very fortunate to have Amal, who is our managing editor, to give some thoughts about his view about Indonesian economy during this COVID-19 pandemic. So yeah, as the product, katadata.co.id has a data box product as well. That's a data statistic portal which are available for everyone now. So you can go to databox.co.id and have a look what's actually inside it. And please, it's actually very comprehensive. We have a regional data dashboard. We have all the data series related to Indonesian business. related to the demography of Indonesia. So all data up to now is up to the provincial level, and we will go deeper into the village level sometimes next year. The second business unit is called Katadata Insight Center. So since a lot of our readers, they really would like to get more insight about Indonesia. They would like to get market research. They would like to get product survey. They would like to get industrial research. They would like to get stakeholder analysis. They would like to get competitor analysis, market entry strategy as well. So we then created the second business unit, Katadata Insight Center. Up to now, we have around 25 to 30 researchers, and we are very fortunate today to have our research director, Dr. Mulya Amri. He is also very familiar with Singapore because he himself, I think, was graduated from the NUS. So today he will talk a lot about Indonesian economy, and he will show all the data, and you can have a bit of a taste of how our research is and how we really utilize data analysis in our research. So that's Katadata Insight Center. The third one, obviously, is CC Plus. Since there are a lot of there are a lot of creative talents as well in our organization, and we are very famous with our infographic. As you know, we also won the Muri record. The Muri record is a very notable record. It's like the Guinness Book of the record, Indonesian based, and we have won for one of the greatest infographic presented. So it's a very long infographic, 17 meters infographic, and it's about the economy of Indonesia. So CC Plus is our creative content business unit, which presents the research which client actually ordered from Katadata Insight Center normally. Sometimes research can be very complicated and it's so thick, yeah, so nobody wants to read it. So once we got the research right, then we will present it in a very digestible form, in a form of a beautiful infographic, a lot of graphics, a lot of people can understand that easily, and it becomes very viral. So I'd like to mention a bit about the insights here. Amal is the one who is responsible for writing down our product, which is the insight, is a premium content providing the story behind the news. Myself was an ex-investment banker, so in my deal making strategy, I like to understand all of the story behind the news before the news actually goes out into the media. And the next one is about Katadata Learning Center. As I said before, we have a lot of talents of creative individual, investor in the capital market, postdoctoral degrees, graduates. These people can provide you with a lot of learning opportunities here. So we can actually provide special programs to train you through Katadata Learning Center as well. So that's a bit of the background who Katadata is. And after that, I'd like to show you a small video. This is about Indonesia Data and Economic Conference, which we conducted sometimes in January, in 31st of January. So this is a very successful event. I don't need to explain it a bit further. You can see it. All the details is in the video. Please, thank you very much.
Bicara mengenai ekonomi, kita bicara mengenai data, kita bicara mengenai growth. sebelum kita bicara mengenai semuanya, satu hal yang harus ada adalah mengenai masalah peace and stability.
So this is an annual event of us. So we plan to create such event on a yearly basis. IDE Katadata 2020 was the second one. So 21 will be the third one. And it was a very successful event. It was attended by 1,000 paying participants with, we managed to invite 6 ministers and with at least 40 different business speakers here. So I think this shows you enough our capabilities and our network in the market. So I think that's enough for me. Thank you very much. Sorry. That's enough for me. Thank you very much. I think I'll give it back to you, Sean. Sean, you're still muted, I think.
Thank you, Mr. David. I'm so sorry. Thank you, Mr. David. I think it's a good insight, and also the Katadata Link Center will be a good platform for Singapore company also to partnership with you, and also maybe some of Singapore programs can link up with you. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you very much. Very happy to for that opportunity.
Cool. Okay. Next, we go to Pak Amal, who's going to do the presentation. Pak Amal, I hand over to you, Pak Amal. Thank you very much, Pak Amal.
Okay, Pak Sam, thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I am Amal Ihsan, managing editor of the Insights. Just like Pak David said, it is a premium information services provided by Katadata. We provide story behind the news, politics behind the policy, helicopter views of Indonesia's political and business landscape. Thank you for having us. It is an honor and a pleasure to be here. Today I'm going to explain about Indonesia after the pandemic, changes, risks, and opportunities. After that, my associate Dr. Mulya Amri will explain about Indonesia's economy amidst the COVID-19, what Singapore business should know. I'm going to share my screen. There are 3 parts in my presentation. First, I'm going to explain about the economic impact of COVID-19 pandemic in Indonesia. After that, I'm going to explain about the Indonesian government response to COVID-19 pandemic. And after that, I'm going to explain how COVID-19 brings changes, risks, and opportunities in Indonesia. Quick update on the Indonesia's COVID-19 pandemic. The COVID-19 has infected around 28,000 people until Tuesday. Around 8,000 of the people has recovered, while other 1,000 has died because of the disease. Figures put the active case at around 64%, still high, but much lower compared to last month. The disease has spread to 34 provinces and 418 cities and regencies. 4 provinces and 15 cities and regencies have imposed partial lockdown known as the PSBB in Indonesia, the large-scale social restrictions. Almost all the PSBB will end this month. After that, the government planned to impose the so-called small-scale social restrictions. It's basically a return to normal with several limitations and restrictions. Now I'm going to talk about the Indonesia's macroeconomic indicator this year. Basically forecast two scenarios in terms of the COVID-19 pandemic to the Indonesian economy. First is the difficult scenario, which is basically the best case scenario, and the other is the severe scenario, which is basically the worst case scenario. From this, we could see how the COVID-19 pandemic impact the Indonesian economy. Growth, for example, is forecast to fall to 2.3% in the difficult scenario and minus 0.4% in the severe scenario compared to the 5.3% target set in the state budget at the beginning of the year. Household consumptions, the main engine of Indonesia's economic growth, will also fall to 3.2% and 1.6% in the severe scenario from the targeted of 5% in the state budget. The ICP, Indonesian crude price, will also fall due to the decreasing global demand and the global oil wars, putting another pressure to the Indonesian economy. PR rate also fell. It's stable level right now because of the effective intervention from the central bank. Export growth will from 3.7% target to minus 14 in the difficult scenario and minus 15.6% in the severe scenario. Import growth will also fall from the 0.2% target to minus 14.5% in a difficult scenario and maybe minus 16.6% in a severe scenario. Investment, or what we call Indonesia is gross fixed capital formation, will also fall from the 6% to 1.1% in the difficult scenario and minus 4.2% in the severe scenario. Now I'm going to talk about the mitigation effort of the Indonesian government against COVID-19. The mitigation effort by the government basically consists of several stimulus and incentive package. First, is the health services and mitigation effort. The program consists of provision of personal protective equipment, health equipment, increasing hospital capacity, incentive for medical personnel. The budget amount around 75 trillion rupiah. The other stimulus package is social safety net. The program consists of the programs basic necessity card, employment card, electricity cost waiver. The budget amount at around 110 trillion rupiah. The other stimulus package is the tax and people credit incentive, consists of several tax incentives: employee income tax incentive, exemption from import taxes for certain sectors, reduction of corporate income taxes, acceleration of the value-added tax restitutions, reduction of corporate tax rates, and incentive for people's credit business. The budget amount at around 70 trillion rupiah. I'm sorry, but I have to put the charger in my laptop because already ran out of battery. Is it okay?
Okay, sure.
Sorry for the break. The last stimulus package is National Economic Recovery Program, consists of several programs, basically anticipating the financial disruption and possible bailout through state capital participation and government investment and guarantee. The budget amount at 150 trillion rupiah. The total amount of the stimulus package from the government is around 405 trillion rupiah, or around 30 billion US dollars. Still changing because the government keep continuing putting another program and stimulus and incentives. Now I'm going to talk about how COVID-19 brings changes in risks and opportunities to the Indonesian economy. First, I'm going to talk about the new normal. These words have become a new mantra nowadays. People talk a lot about it, the new normal, but a lot of people don't know what it means. New normals basically means that people change their lifestyle, the government and business change their way of doing business as a response, as an aftershock of the pandemics. Now, a lot of experts said that people will regain their confidence after a vaccine commercially available and commercially affordable. But the main difference is the changes before will stay even after vaccine commercially available and affordable. So that is what new normal means. I'm going to elaborate more on the example of later on. Now I'm going to start with the not so good changes that the COVID-19 pandemic brings to the Indonesian economy. That is the possible rising of inequality gap in Indonesia. In the last 2 decades, Indonesia has experienced a growing fast middle class. Together with the AMC, or the aspiring middle class and the AMC contribute to nearly 90% of Indonesia's household consumptions. Research by the World Bank shows that a lot of luxury items and home appliances owned by the rich is also owned by the AMC and the middle class. Air conditioner, washing machines, TV, even the poor. The only item that the poor and the vulnerable don't have is the water heater. So if you have water heater in Indonesia, you basically are rich or a middle class persons. Now all of that is going to change. 5 million people have lost their jobs and has lost their incomes due to the COVID-19 pandemics. Will put pressure to the Indonesia's household consumptions because a lot of people in the aspiring middle class will fall to the vulnerable groups. A lot of people in the vulnerable groups will fall to the poor groups. The people in the poor groups will increase. The government calculated that people living under poverty line will increase from 9% to 12% populations. So these changes can create constraint or risk to the private sector because it pressures the Indonesia's household consumptions. The other not so good changes is the possible rise of domestic supply chain. Now, you notice that I put a question mark in there because it's still uncertain. In the past, there is no doubt what Indonesian government will choose. Obviously, they will choose to get a global supply chains. But because of the COVID-19 pandemic, because of the disruption in global supply chains, because of the risk from the exchange rates, a lot of businessmen, based on our interview, are considering to develop their own domestic supply chains. Because again, because of the disruptions of the global supply chain, coming from the COVID-19 pandemic and exchange rates. Now, I must remind you this is still uncertain because it is still a lot easier and a lot cheaper to just import materials and goods from Singapore or China, for example. But because of the constraint that COVID-19 pandemic brings, a lot of industry in Indonesia, for example, the pharmaceutical industry, are considering developing domestic supply chains. Now, another changes that worth mentioning is what I call the rise of the big government. Today, all government in the world are using their state budget to drive the economy. Indonesia is no exception. The government has amended the state financial law and basically removed the state budget limit. So the government basically drive the economy with a huge amount of deficit from the state budget. Now, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, this will change. The political perspective that government should play dominant or active role in the economy has practically been abandoned or declined. But because of the COVID-19 pandemic, the idea is break now. The idea of the so-called will return. The government will play more dominant role in the economy. It will create risk to the private sector. The so-called crowding out effect basically said increasing public sector spending will decrease private sector spending. When government increase borrowing, basically suck up a lot of economies lending capacity and basically prevent private sector from making capital investment. So there is a risk from these tendencies to the big government when government playing dominant or active role in the economy because of the COVID-19 pandemics. Now I'm going to talk about the good changes that maybe the COVID-19 pandemic will bring to Indonesia. The reduction and the regulatory barriers. COVID regulatory are considered hampering investments. There's a lot of policies on this. The easing of the so-called negative investment list, the increasing authority of the state investment coordinating bodies. But the key instrument, the main instrument is a law known as the Omnibus Law, which practically remove a lot of provision in 79 laws that consider our hampering investment. So it will bring huge opportunities to foreign investors that want to invest in Indonesia or foreign business that want to conduct business in Indonesia. Now, earlier I've said about the new normal. The most obvious example of new normal is the rise of online economy. Survey conducted by McKinsey found that Indonesians have picked up digital lifestyle, meaning that Indonesian consumers have started and intensified their usage of many online activities, online streaming, video chat, video teleconferencing, online fitness wellness application, telemedicine, playing online game, restaurant delivery, grocery delivery. So basically, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, there is a huge opportunities for online business and online economy. Now, another changes that the COVID-19 pandemic brings is the renewed consciousness on health. Survey by Survey Sansum found that health concern and health product dominate the Indonesian consumer behavior. the Indonesian consumers have increased their spending on health products and health services because of the health concerns. Hand wash, they're increasing consumption on hand wash, water consumption, eating food and vegetables, vitamin consumptions, medicines, herbal and health products, doctor consultation, etc. On the other hand, they're decreasing consumption of other area because of health concerns. Weekend traveling, going to the mall, vacation, ride-hailing travel, public transport usage, going to cinema, offline meeting, etc. So we need to consider what kind of risks and opportunities arrive from the changes of the Indonesian consumer behavior. Now I'm going to talk about the Indonesia's industries that are affected by the pandemic. This is some of the industries negatively affected by the pandemics. Survey by Ventures and Bonza found that a lot of industries and companies have laid off and furloughed their employee. This is the most industries that lay off most people. There is the textile manufacturers, land transportations, hotels, huge manufacturing, restaurant, small house industries. Based on the company, we can also see other industries that are affected by the pandemics. Bus akap, land transport, obviously. Investment, construction, a lot of construction projects being postponed right now in Indonesia. KFC Indonesia also lay off 1,000 of their employees. Shoe manufacturing, of course. Garuda Indonesia Airlines, of course, obviously, because no one travels anymore. Indosat, this is quite surprising because Indosat is Indonesia telecommunication company. This is quite surprising because telecommunication is considered one of the winner industry, meaning they should potentially benefited from the pandemic, but obviously it's not applied to the Indosat. Other industry negatively affected by the pandemic is ice cream, food and beverage, basic industry, e-commerce, but B2B e-commerce because a lot of their business partners closing down. Online hotels, Red Doors, also lay off hundreds of their employees. Target Bintan Airlines, Traveloka, the online traveling agency, also lay off hundreds of their employees. Akulaku, Fintech, and Mandiri, other travel agencies. While some industries have to lay off their employees, other industries actually still hiring employees. You can see the list over here. Almost all of them are in the technology sectors. E-commerce, obviously, fintech, IT consulting, cloud solutions, health tech, lending, gaming, etc. The other industries are banking and finance, industrial supply, like I said, the supply chain, oil and gas, property, insurance, food supply, agribusiness, furniture, consulting, pharmaceutical, cigarettes, quite surprising. Evidently, during the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of Indonesian people still smoke cigarettes. Now, about the general conclusions. Indonesians are concerned, according to survey by Kantar Indonesia, because of the COVID-19 pandemic. They're sure, meaning that they know what to do as an individual, as a family. Indonesian people, even though they are concerned about the COVID-19 pandemic, they basically assure they know what to do. What I'm trying to say with this, that yes, Indonesians have suffered because of the COVID-19 pandemic, but Indonesians will eventually find a way to deal with this thing and cope with the impact from the pandemic. Let me close by saying that yes, we have great challenges ahead, but we also have great opportunities. Now it's up to us to make this one of the most challenging time as one of our best time in our life. So I guess that is my presentation. I invite Dr. Mulya Amri to continue with his presentations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amal. Thank you so much for your presentation. Dr. Amri, can you I hand over to you on the second slide presentation?
Okay, thank you very much. Hi, Sham. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here. So I will continue on to the presentation that Amal just provided to talk more about the micro level business connections between Singapore and Indonesia and what kind of opportunities exist in the more specific sectors. So just as an introduction, it was mentioned earlier, so I was based in Singapore for 10 years between 2011 and 2018 until 2017. So out of those 10 years, I was based at the NUS for 6 years. I was working at the Asia Competitiveness Institute in NUS. And then I did that as I was doing my PhD degree over there. But previously, I was working with Jurong Consultants, now part of Sumbana Jurong in Jurong East. As for myself, I lived in Balam Road, which is just off from Sikit Road. I lived there for 10 years. So
I see.
Some of you may know it as Aljunied 10 Story. So that's where I lived for 10 years in Singapore. So it's great to be back speaking with Singapore colleagues. Basically, from one of the most important things that I was working on at the Asia Competitiveness Institute was we were doing research on the subnational economies in Asia. So we believe that based on the research that was done by Professor Tan Hong Yam and Professor Tan Ki Kiap, though they were based in NTU and NUS, there's a strong economic relationship between Singapore and in Indonesia. So they actually measured the economic relationship, and it's a positive correlation in which if Indonesian economy grow by 1%, so let's say Indonesia's typical economic growth rate is 5%, right? So if Indonesia's economic growth rate rise by 1% to 6%, so typically 5%, and then next year rise to 6%, right? So it's grow by 1%. So Singapore actually also grows by 0.25%. So it's actually there's a very good economic linkages. So it's a mutual relationship. So if Singapore's economic growth is typically 3%, for example, if Indonesia grows from 5 to 6%, then Singapore will grow from 3 to 3.25%. And that 0.25% is actually triggered by Indonesia's economic growth of 1%. Many people are like, well, how come? Is it because Indonesians then become richer and then they shop at Orchard Road? Yes, partly that's also true, but also as Indonesians do businesses all around the world, even in like say Japan or China or in the US, they most likely will need to transit in Changi Airport anyway. So Changi Airport would get more businesses as Indonesia travel. Also, as Indonesian businesses grow, they would require more advanced services that may not be available in Indonesia. They may need more advanced financial services, international legal advice, even design services that are one level above that's typically provided in Indonesia. They would look abroad. As closest one is Singapore. So all these business linkages would create. So there's very strong economic linkages between Singapore and Indonesia itself. Between the two countries, we have a lot of similarities in terms of what we export and what we import. Both Indonesia and Singapore are the fourth most important export destinations. First one for both countries is China, but for Singapore, Hong Kong and Malaysia is quite strong as export destinations. For Indonesia, it's more Japan, and India, interestingly, is also becoming stronger as Indonesia's export destination nowadays. In terms of what we export, this is also quite interesting because out of what Indonesia exports to Singapore, if you see on the left-hand chart, 21% is actually petroleum gas. A lot of them coming from Natuna Islands, just off from Riau Islands, not far from Batam and Bintan. So it's actually the gas over there. And then Singapore, produces that into refined petroleum, which is then exported to Indonesia. So there's a strong petroleum linkage between Indonesia and Singapore. But outside from the petroleum itself, Singapore actually exports a lot of the intermediate parts that are then assembled in Indonesia, and some of them, the product after assembly actually goes back to Singapore. So the trade links are immense. So you can see here, so we mentioned petroleum is one of the biggest in Singapore's export to Indonesia, refined petroleum. But outside of refined petroleum itself, we see there it's mostly chemicals and machinery. Chemicals and machinery is basically Singapore providing the intermediate parts, which are then assembled in Indonesia. And a lot of them are assembled in West Java, just in the suburb to the east of Jakarta, and also some of the rising industrial centers in Indonesia as well, including those industrial parks outside of Surabaya and outside of Semarang in Central Java. So mentioned here, Riau Islands, it's Singapore's top import from Indonesia comes from Riau Islands, mostly the petroleum gas. But other than that, it's mostly Jakarta, East Java, West Java. It's mainly concentrated in Java and Sumatra. So if you see Indonesia is a big country, a lot of you guys know that in terms of from east to west, it's quite similar to from London to Istanbul. But in terms of the economic linkages, it's primarily concentrated in the Sumatra regions and the Java region. So if you want to concentrate on where these economic linkages are, where these opportunities exist, it's primarily here. These are some of the top 6 provinces that export to Singapore, right? And also in terms of FDI, so beyond trade, beyond export and import, we can also explore the FDI, foreign direct investment. Singapore is by far the largest foreign investor coming into Indonesia. So about 1/3 of all the foreign direct investments that come from Indonesia are actually channeled from Singapore. 1/3 of all the almost 200 countries in the world, 1/3 actually come from Singapore. Of course, these are not all from Singapore companies. A lot of them are coming from American and also Japanese companies, which are based in Singapore. And then that Singapore company setup then sends the foreign direct investment to Indonesia. And we see some of the top destinations. A lot of them are in Jakarta, West Java, which is just a suburb of Jakarta. And then Riau Islands, we also see some investment in terms of real estate, but also in terms of the IT sector, startups, Singapore investment on startups in Batam as well. So we see here on the right-hand side where they're going to. The first number 1 is housing, industrial zones, offices. Those are basically real estate. We see for the past few years, companies like Capital are investing in Indonesia, primarily in Jakarta and also the surrounding areas, basically the Jakarta metropolitan area, which is, by the way, the second most populated metropolitan area in the world. There's 30 people in the Jakarta metro. Number 1 is, of course, Tokyo metropolitan area, not far ahead of Jakarta, maybe around 35 million people. So yeah, and connected to that also transport, logistics, telecoms. Those are some of the Singapore investments that are taking place within Jakarta. Now, we take a look at a little bit more detail into some of the impacts of COVID into Jakarta or Indonesia's provinces. So we see, unfortunately, the more competitive provinces of Indonesia tend to be more heavily impacted by COVID-19. And partly is because these more competitive provinces, they have more people. They are more dense. They have a lot more businesses and industries having, being developed there. So one of the more determinants of COVID vulnerability is this density. So we can take a look here. Top 10 provinces or top 15 provinces that export. Actually, if you look at Indonesia export by province, and this is not just going to Singapore, but all over the world, actually only 15%, they account for 90% of all Indonesia's exports. So you can just take a look at this screen here. These 15 account for 90%. And you can see some provinces over time have exported less and some provinces have exported more. You can see here East Kalimantan actually the place where Indonesia's new capital might be. Big question mark there, but it's actually in terms of exports in the latest period is a lot of export coming out of there, more exports coming in from West Java, and it's partly because of the industrial areas. Riau Islands, just next to Singapore, they're exporting more and more. North Sumatra, Medan is also exporting more. Lampung as well. So it's more varied exports, provinces that are doing exports. But in terms of these provinces' vulnerability to COVID, so here we map it out. Katadata has mapped out. If you take a look at the x-axis, which is going from left to right, the more further right you go, the more vulnerable these provinces are to COVID-19. And we have measured this based on an index, including density, including the air quality, and a lot of that. We can access that in Katadata website. But on the y-axis, which is from down going up, we see the healthcare capacity of the provinces. And then the size of the bubbles actually represent the economic size. So you can see some of the provinces that are big in economic size. So we see West Java, Jakarta, East Java, Central Java. They are more on the right-hand side. They're more vulnerable to COVID-19. And unfortunately, except from Jakarta, the Central Java, your East Java, your West Java, they are, in terms of healthcare capacity, they're quite low. So unfortunately, we need to be aware of this, and we are doing our best to campaign that we need more attention going on to some of these provinces, West Java and Banten. Banten is becoming less vulnerable nowadays. The number of people that are infected in Banten is not rising very much, but we see some concern in East Java. East Java is now the hotspot in terms of COVID-19 vulnerability now, in terms of the number of cases rising. This graph was prepared by Katadata in early April, so it has evolved since then. The index needs to be updated. But we also see that opportunities in the digital economy. Amal has mentioned here, we also did an index, digital competitiveness index of Indonesia's provinces. We did that for East Ventures, which is one of the venture capital companies actually based in Singapore, but they invest a lot in Indonesian startups. We see that in terms of digital competitiveness, Jakarta and the Java provinces, they stand out from the crowd. And then coming next, we see Bali, East Kalimantan, and also Riau Islands. So in terms of digital competitiveness. But what is also interesting from what we see is that within the several sectors, some sectors are hiring more high-skilled workers. And we see that ICT, finance, accommodation, F&B, corporate services, real estate, they are hiring more and more high-skilled workers. So we see that some of these are some of the sectors that are increasingly becoming digitalized in Indonesia. And we also see that provinces that are more digitally competitive, they tend to shed low-skilled workers. So we can see already here, within a period of several years, Jakarta has actually shed low-skilled workers in terms of number or proportion by 7.7%. So Jakarta is losing the proportion of low-skilled workers. So is West Java by -6%, Banten also by -7%, Riau Islands as well by -3.5%. So we can see here some of the trends that are happening in Indonesia, some of the economic shifts. And a lot of these data are, of course, available in databox.co.id. There's a wealth of data there, millions and millions of data, 1,000 categories and subcategories, sectors and subsectors. So you can zoom in into sectors and subsectors. At the moment, we have the data broken down by province. So that's a lot of data, and we are preparing so that these data can be available at the one level down from the provinces, which is the cities and kabupaten levels in a few months. And then by next year, for example, or even sooner, we'll have even data provided down to the village level. So you can very much pinpoint which location is right for your business. So these are some of the things that we are developing at Katadata, and I hope this presentation has been insightful, and we're looking forward to the discussion with you. Okay, back to you, Shyam. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Amri. That was a good presentation from you. We're going to move into a Q&A session. We have another around 45 minutes. So we're going to have a good session about the Q&A. maybe I'll start with you, Pak Amri. How's the new normal now in Indonesia since PSB has been lifted up? So how's the new normal going on?
We are just lifting up the large-scale social restrictions, which is a way shy of saying lockdown, basically. But we can see already, especially after the Hari Raya, activities have been going on. It's formally today and Monday. Actually, malls are not open yet. Offices are formally open Monday. Malls are formally open on the 15th of June. So basically, the restaurants and malls are still formally shut now. But we can see already in the streets, as also confirmed by some of the other panelists, there's more activities on the streets. Of course, people are wearing masks, and I hope we continue to do so. We're quite anxious about how the public transport is going to hold up, especially on Monday when the offices are formally allowed to operate back. So we'll have to see. So we're looking at it cautiously.
Is it true? I just heard on the recent news that if you don't wear mask, you'll be fined. And
yes. That's correct. That's correct. Actually, so every day we see the police stopping cars, even cars. So they stop cars, making sure that the drivers and the people wear masks, and there's a limit to the number of people that are in the cars. Yeah. So we see that on the news that the police are doing these checks to cars.
Okay. Just last one question about the social matters. Do you think, because currently right now the border is not really open up, do you think with all this PSBB going on, when do you think is it achievable for Indonesian government to open their borders for tourism, for business owners, SMEs to travel? Because currently it's only diplomat. The whole also government projects that is related to the national project in Indonesia, then they can enter into Indonesia, but with a 40 days quarantine. So do you think by September you think it will be over, that people can start traveling to Indonesia, because we all are eager to see Indonesia?
Yes, I mean, this is something that we are also wondering at the moment. So the government is keeping a close eye on when it can be opened. Of course, there's tension within the country as well in terms of people who want the economy to start, right, to start picking up again. And we see actually for the past week, the Indonesia index, the Jakarta Stock Exchange index has been rising. So in anticipation of these opening up, but some people are also saying, you know, you have to be very, very careful. We don't want casualties to rise up. So in terms of international business travel, we're still looking at this, but some people have mentioned it might be in the next couple of months. Actually, Bali, looking at the increase in the number of cases in Bali has been quite stable. So some people are saying, you know, which province might be allowed to open first? Maybe because Bali is very much dependent on foreign travelers, so they have been very diligent in terms of maintaining the social distancing and others.
Okay, thank you. Going to the stimulus package by the Finance Ministry, we see that the stimulus package is good. It is for the UMKM, for the social security, and also for the employment, you know, packages. But I just want to go a bit in depth because maybe on your side, maybe you can give a bit more brief. How does this stimulus package will benefit foreign companies really based in Indonesia?
Right. So the stimulus package actually at the moment do not very much define whether it's for national companies only or foreign companies as well. But as long as you pay taxes in Indonesia, so it's basically tax relief, tax incentive packages. So if you actually pay tax in Indonesia, that the incentive is to reduce the amount of tax that you are supposed to pay. So there is a limitation in terms of the size, which is also debatable because there is a demand to help primarily the smaller companies, the SMEs and all that. But we also need to understand that some of the bigger companies, they actually employ more workers, right? So it is something that we, a fine line we are negotiating and trying to find a good balance now, so that we can provide the most benefits to the most number of people.
Okay, Pak Amal, you there, Pak Amal? Pak Amal, we've been talking about omnibus law. We're talking about omnibus law. It's been going on and on and on until now. So, in a way, how does this omnibus law really benefit foreign companies? Can you be more detailed and specific?
Yes, there is a lot of earth-shattering provisions from the omnibus law. For example, the omnibus law is basically dismantling a lot of provisions that are considered harassment, and the omnibus law basically remove all powers to the central government. There are so many license and that has to be applied to the regional government, city government, provincial governments. When the omnibus law finally enacted, all of the power of licensing and give permit go back to the central government, and the central government already in the spirit to provide help for the investors, foreign investors, domestic investors, dismantling the negative investment links, increasing the authority of BKPM, the investment coordinating body, and so on. So basically, there is a huge opportunities for foreign investors and domestic investors because of the omnibus laws. The omnibus law also, I have to add something. The omnibus law also remove a lot of sanctions in terms of environmental problems, legal problems. A lot of the things that usually present in the current law will be removed with the omnibus law.
Okay, Pak Amal. Thank you, Pak Amal. Back to Dr. Pak Amri. You see that there's a lot of public spending in Indonesia, and also loan being taken from Indonesia, from IMF. Do you see that rupiah going to weakening against Singapore dollar?
Oh yes, thanks for the question. Actually, at the moment, the trend for the past couple of months, Indonesian rupiah has been strengthening against Singapore dollar. So Indonesian rupiah actually dropped very low compared to SGD a couple of months ago when the COVID just started, and we were very concerned about whether Indonesia is what will happen to Indonesia. But after that, it's come back to normal. So nowadays it's about one SGD is about 10,000 rupiah, which has been traditionally what it has been since maybe the 2018. So it has come back to normal, although the Indonesian rupiah did drop very low in around end of March. But at the moment, in terms of whether rupiah will continue to further become steady or lower, that's something that we don't know yet. In terms of the public spending, it's not yet as much as people would expect. So because there's also, it needs some time for the public spending to take place, and there has been a lot of discussions in terms of the fiscal strategy to do that. Yeah. So at the moment, it's still quite stable.
Okay, thank you very much. That's a good insight. Okay, let's go to Mr. Kai. Hi, Mr. Kai. As we know that you are a new player in Indonesia to start a company in Indonesia. So what is your current biggest challenge, and what is the challenge in the industry right now? Mr. Kai?
All right, thanks for the question, Shab. So I wanted to add on this is that not only was I new into Indonesia, I was in an entirely new industry, right?
Okay.
Cryptocurrency, it's a very new industry. It's only been around for about 10 years. More so, I moved over to Indonesia, and didn't have any connections I was thrown into a completely new space. So definitely, in terms of challenges that I faced when I first came in Indonesia was basically once I landed was how do I go about making connections, making networking with not only people in the business sector but also people in the regulators as well. So those were my biggest challenges when I first came in Indonesia, and I was fortunate enough that when I came in, I met a few business partners who introduced me to Singapore Chamber of Commerce, which I'm gonna help to spread the word a little bit on the Chamber of Commerce over here. Is that the Chamber of Commerce, we are a community that is built in order. We recognize the importance of building a community whereby business owners can come together and network and leverage on each other's resources and network in tackling these challenges. So for me personally, setting up TokoCrypto in Indonesia, I definitely benefited a lot from these network connections that I have with the Singapore Chamber of Commerce. Managed to talk to lawyers, managed to connect with accountants who provide great insights of how should I set up a company, how should I run a company in terms of taxation, in terms of legalization, in terms of navigating the regulatory framework in Indonesia. So yeah, those were some of the challenges that I faced, and also how did I go about navigating these challenges. It's very important whenever, not only in Indonesia, but in any country, if you are looking to enter a new market, it's very important to know how best to plug into the local business community. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Just another question. Well, we saw that from Jakarta you expanded to Central Java in Jogja. So can you share your experience when from Jakarta you expanded to Central Java? Because Central Java, the labor cost is way cheaper than Jakarta, and it's abundant opportunity in Central Java actually. So maybe you can share a bit, your expansion into Jogja in Central Java from Jakarta capital.
Actually, Kai,
yes.
Just to ask another curious question, why you choose Indonesia, as compared to elsewhere? And I think you are very brave, to move to Indonesia. Does language becomes an issue for you?
Yes. Okay. Let me take up these very interesting and thank you so much for these questions. So I'll answer Mr. Farid first in terms of why Indonesia. So I believe the reason why is the reason why all of us are here tuned into this webinar right now is that we see great potential in Indonesia. Right, 257 million people. GDP has been growing at 5% for the past couple of years. There's a rising middle class in Indonesia. There's a lot of potential, and we agree that there's a lot of potential. That's why we decided to come into Indonesia. Also, it's not too far away from Singapore. Compared to other countries, it's only a 1 hour flight away. So that might be also another reason, the ease of access in Indonesia. Yes, I had to pick up Bahasa Indo when I first moved to Jakarta. I had classes like 2 times a week, 2 hours per session, and it was like intensive for like 6 months. So I went through the whole Bahasa Indo induction course, and
so you can
very.
speak Bahasa now. You can speak Bahasa now.
Apa kabar Pak Kai? Sehat ya Pak Kai?
Right.
Kai, you know the fastest way to learn Indonesian language is to find yourself an Indonesian girlfriend. So that'd be the fastest one.
I guess I got that. I got that ticked off my checklist already. That's also one of the trade secrets. So aside from my intensive class, I also managed to get a Indo. But that's a side point, right? So yes, it's very important. I believe the other panelists on this call would agree with me. Indonesia's main language is Bahasa Indo. If you're looking to be successful in Indonesia, it's very important to understand the culture. It's very important to know the language, to speak the language, because I believe even in government regulations, it's regulated that during government meetings, the form of the language that you use has to be Bahasa Indo. So that is a very important factor that we recognize, and something that I put much effort into. Thanks, Mr. Farid, for the question. So to answer Sham's question, right? So for TokoCrypto, our vision was always that not only just to stick in Indonesia, our vision was always to go into the other regions, the other islands, the other states in Indonesia. 17,000 decentralized islands. Jakarta is nested on Java Island itself, right? So why did we decide to move into Jakarta? We are not only in Jakarta, we are in Jakarta, Bandung, we're in Balikpapan, we're in Bali as well. So why did we choose Jakarta as one of our places that we wanted to start from? To share, we are also working very closely with Block 71 NDS, right? So we had an office with Block 71 in Jakarta as well as Block 71 in Bandung. So the reason why is that Jakarta is a very vibrant city with a lot of universities there, and that is where a large portion of our target audience is. Students up and coming, ready to go into the adult world. That's why we identified Jakarta as a prime, pristine place for us to go in, because blockchain, cryptocurrency is a new thing, right? It's a new thing, and we feel that millennials could be able to relate it to it better. Could be able to want and be more curious to learn more about it. So that's basically one of the key reasons why we decided to create our nest in Jakarta. And I must say that it has really been very effective. We have seen a huge growth in our user base in Jakarta, huge interest coming from the universities. We have MOUs signed with some of the universities in Jakarta, like Amidst, whereby we have this thing called TokoCrypto, which is like crypto corner, where it's the same like Pojok Saham, in universities there's Pojok Saham, right, where people can like a corner in the school whereby people go to and learn about how to trade stocks. And we created this similar thing for cryptocurrencies, and we hope that it will bear fruit and create this interest. Yeah. Thanks for the question, Tom, and Mr. Farid. I hope I answered them.
Yeah. Before I move to Farid, since we're talking about new players, Mr. Jimmy, for Singapore companies who want to enter into the Indonesian market, what's the option of setup for companies in Singapore? And what do you think is the best way to enter the market in terms of regulation?
Yes, there are several ways to enter the Indonesian market, right? If you want to set up a legal presence there, the most common two main modes are you set up a foreign investment company, which in Indonesia is called a PMA company, right? And this is similar to a private limited company in Singapore. Okay, now a PMA company generally requires 10 billion rupiah of investment spending, and this would exclude land and building costs, and you must have a minimum paid up capital of 2.5 billion rupiah as paid up capital.
So in Singapore dollars, around 250,000?
Yes, slightly less. Yes, correct. So the other way is that if you are not so sure yet of setting up a legal presence there to start doing business, but wish to explore the market further and do some survey, then it may be good to consider setting up a general representative office, right? So in Indonesia, this we call the KPPA. It is popular for those really wanting to explore the market first before they go in full scale with their capital. Because for a rep office, you don't need to have a minimum paid up capital.
Okay.
Yeah. However, you cannot do sales, you cannot generate revenue or provide services there. So any sales you have to refer back to your parent company outside of Indonesia. Okay. So that would mean I think that there will be tax issues there. All right. Of course, there are advantages and disadvantages, right? For a rep company, you still can hire staff. You can still open a bank account to meet your expenses, right? Of course, the other disadvantage is that you can't generate sales business directly there in Indonesia. Yeah.
Okay. Before I go to Farid, one last question, Mr. Jimmy. Into regulation. In this post-pandemic, what the potential business with strong demand in Indonesia that be open for foreign entity? What's your thought, Mr. Jimmy, based on your experience, Mr. Jimmy?
Oh yes, I think what I call this worldwide pandemic, right? The demand for businesses probably is similar in every country. I think Indonesia is no exception. I think when you see there is a lockdown, you've pushed many consumers to go online, right, to buy food, groceries, clothing, right, and this will continue after easing. Okay, I have a client also who was in the preschool business in Indonesia.
Okay.
Yes, she has gone online. She has to close the center, and probably may not be able to open for the next 1-2 years, depending on the situation. Right now, we know telecommunicating now is the new normal.
Yes.
Right? Even the pandemic, the lockdown is over. I think Indonesia has started to ease restrictions and opening, but you will not be back to normal so soon. Probably take a while more. So telecommuting business, supporting business, and in the healthcare also, where you see a lot of companies are beefing up their infrastructure, the healthcare system, which has been neglected for quite a long time. So with Indonesia population of 260 million, the demand for online education, training, e-commerce, related IT support services, healthcare, I personally, I think these are the best sectors to be in right now, right? And there will be probably if China if China starts to move their companies down to South Asia, Indonesia will be a beneficiary. But for non-essential manufacturing may suffer a while. Of course, F&Bs and tourism in that sense. And recently, I've just read that an Indonesian factory that produced shoes for Nike has actually closed.
Yes, in Tangerang.
That's right. And another one, there was a layoff of huge number of workers. And then earlier, another shoe factory was closed. Yeah, that made shoes for Nike and Adidas. So I think non-essential manufacturing, apart from food, may be impacted for at least a short term. Or I'm not too sure how long it goes on. Yeah.
Mr. Jimmy, I think one other challenge for foreign companies is actually work permits. Work permits for Indonesia. Because just now you mentioned the PMR and of course the sales rep. So what are the pros and cons, for this?
Yeah, I think whether you are going in as to set up legal presence in Indonesia, you are still entitled to send your guys there to what called foreigners working in Indonesia. I think you need to get the kitas, and you're going to be there you're going to be there in Indonesia. You need to apply for the IMTA as well and all these things. So it should not be a problem. But during this pandemic, I think it's another issue altogether. Probably there's some guidelines or restrictions for foreigners going into Indonesia to work in that sense. I think it remains to be seen how these guidelines will turn out to be. Right?
Okay.
Okay. Back to Pak Farid. Based on your experience, you were there for almost a decade. I got a few questions for you. What's the initial state to go to market into Indonesia to understand whether there's a market, there's a demand for our product in Indonesia based on your experience? And also, what are the effective way to enter into Indonesian market in this challenging moment of COVID-19, because we are going to the new normal right now? So maybe can you share with us based on your almost 8 to 10 years experience in Indonesia, Mr. Farid?
Sure. Thank you, Syam. Okay, actually, for me, I always tell my management team, I always tell them that COVID or no COVID, business still have to run, business still have to grow. Yeah, I think what is very important here is the talent. Okay, I think during this COVID period, I think it is also, I'm not sure whether they call it blessing in disguise. There is a market corrections, for salaries of, especially in the startup industry. I mean, as we all know, startup industry said the salaries of talents actually was very high, but subsequently because of the retrenchments and with all this PHK coming on, there are a lot of talent pool that is available, good talents. So the main key factor here is talent. Because when you want to embark into a country like Indonesia or anywhere, I think it is very important that you identify the right talent, at least the initial leadership position within the industry and or even the sector that you are actually focusing in, which means that you really need to have someone. I always use this term. We better have someone with a technical know-how, know-who, rather than you have a technical know-how. Okay, know-who and know-how. I mean, someone with a very industry knowledge, who knows a lot of connections, who knows a lot of people in the market. It is easier to jumpstart, and of course easier to attract other talents, because that's usually the strategy I adopt even until today. When I'm with Avana as Chief Strategy Officer, I usually hijack or poach people from that particular industry. Then subsequently, I use the word sapu other talents within their group. And it is proven. It's a proven model that I adopted. Even when I was in Malaysia, I did the same. In Indonesia, also I did the same. So having that talent that knows the technical know-how, that's very important. Then of course, managing talents or managing teams, is very challenging actually, especially for foreign owners, because I guess the culture is different. The way we speak is also different. Sometimes, just now, that's why I was asking Kai about his language, because as we know, sometimes our understanding of the meaning we say is very different on how they know. So sometimes you get misunderstanding. So that's something that you need to be wary about. I just give you an example. When we talk about in Bahasa or Melayu, pusing can have a very two different meaning, within Malaysia and Indonesia. Pusing in Malaysia is, you just make a turn, but pusing in Indonesia is like you're having a headache. So it's just one very simple example. But having said that, there are very many hungry talents that actually with a very growth mindset. They actually want to learn. But what is needed from us as a business owners or as a senior level leadership team? I think there's a lot of hand-holding, there's a lot of mentorship, a lot of coaching for them to grow. But last but not least, which is part of my methodology, that is always have to closely monitor and follow through activities. I think that the controlling and the monitoring part is very key. So that is on that. Again, from a business perspective, from a company point of view, or even from a strategic point of view, you need to really study your own products and solutions and see what are the real main pain points that you are really solving in that particular market. So it's not like every product that you bring in, you just push your product in, expect to have sales, that kind of thing. It may not work. I mean, just share with you, even when I'm with currently Chief Strategy Officer of Avana too, I mean, whatever they have done in Malaysia is I can tell you 50% is we customize it, to fit the market. But again, in order for us to do that, or in order for me to do that, what I've done, I just helped them started last year in September, since I sold off the fintech company. I came in. One of the first things I did, which I mentioned earlier just now, is actually looking at the people. So since I moved in for the past 9 months, it's actually becomes an evolution. Almost 80% of the old team actually being removed. Yeah, and I install the right people into the job. So I think key is always the people. Number two is just now I mentioned about key main pain points. What are you solving? I've ever brought a Singapore company last year, yeah, trying to do something. Yes, you know, I invested in it. I bring them through the kind of thing. Then apparently we see, hey, you know, your product is actually not ready for the market. So that's something that we need to look into. Other than the pain points, I believe you need to understand the customer or the user journey, or even the culture. Yeah, culture of buying. Yeah, whether you are doing B2B or even B2C is very different. So there must be an understanding of your product market fit in that particular market. So here, what I'm saying is very specific understanding about your customer profile that you are serving. Yeah, because we always say, you know, wow, the Indonesia market is so big, 265 million. But in fact, you don't have to go and serve 265 million, right? I mean, all you need to do is probably you serve only 0.5%. And you really need to understand very well that segment, the user experience. So that's what I feel. If you want to really go to the market, yeah. So in summary, number one is talent. Number two is understanding what is the main key pain points that you are solving. And number three is understanding the user customer journey and the culture to do a product market fit. Yep.
Thank you. Mr. Farid, one more question. You know, currently medical supply is a hot demand and is increasing. You know, and also agriculture and poultry. I mean, in the need of using IoT. Is it that there's a demand in IoT in Indonesia currently?
I think there's always a demand on a lot of things. Yeah, but the main challenge, again, number one is probably the regulation. Yeah, that you need to understand. I give an example. Like now, currently, I'm also supplying telecommunication devices in Indonesia. I mean, you have to go through a lot of registrations and license and etc. So that is quite a daunting task. But of course, again, it goes back into working with the right people to get that done. Again, if we talk about let's say medical devices, sure, there are opportunities, but the main challenge is always be the regulations and even registrations of the product. That's the main key problem. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. We left 15 more minutes. Talking about regulation, Mr. Jimmy, you still there, Mr. Jimmy?
Yes.
In terms of regulation for health sector, and also even you know, a lot of people intend to go to education sector because the stimulus package almost 2.9 trillion rupiah. So what do you have advice on the regulation part in terms of ownership, you know, for education, training, and also for health sector?
Right. Okay. Let me start with the education first. Right. For preschool education and professional training, that means adults, and after school leavers like vocational skill training, these are open to foreigners. Okay. Now preschool centers, which are not regulated, they are open to foreigners 100%. Okay. I have quite a number of few clients who have actually set up preschools in Jakarta themselves.
Okay.
Right. And but presently they have to close. There's no choice. So they have gone online.
Yeah.
Okay. Because many middle class Indonesian expatriates there, right? They have full-time caregivers. So unlikely, even if the pandemic is over, they will not go back to the preschool for at least for a while more. Right. Now, whereas for vocational training in the areas like IT, multimedia, software, this should be in high demand. In line with the growth of the e-commerce, IT in the office. This is currently capped at 49% foreign ownership. Okay, whereas for foreign training, professional training for working adults,
yeah,
is also popular. This is capped at 67%. Okay. Now, I think with this pandemic, then a lot of people are going online to conduct training. I guess the company's budget probably will be reduced for training, maybe on-site training. But if you offer online training at a much lower cost, there could be a demand, and it could be a win-win situation for both sides for online professional training courses. Whereas now for healthcare, yes, I think in the healthcare sector, we know that general hospital, setting up general hospital is restricted to 67% for ownership, but specialist hospital like eyes, like for your kidney or for certain sections of the medical, is open to 100% ownership. Okay. Now in hospital management and consultancy, healthcare equipment, laboratories, or manufacture raw materials for pharmaceuticals, these are all open to 100% foreign ownership. Okay, I recall that one of my previous clients, renal team, yes, Singapore's renal team, they opened a center for kidney dialysis in Jakarta a couple of years back. Yeah, so I think the healthcare sector, yeah, and the online education represent immense opportunity.
Okay, guys, for SMS company who want to know what regulation, can drop us an email, then we can follow Mr. Jimmy. Back to Dr. Amri. Dr. Amri,
yes.
we know recently in pharma sector, I can go into manufacturing. Recently, President Trump have a good discussion with President Jokowi, They intended Brebes, because if I know Brebes is good for salted egg, telur asin, ya. Betul ya?
Yes, correct, yes.
Bawang.
Very good, they're very good.
Bawang juga.
Yeah, correct, and also onion. So why Brebes? Why Brebes they decided to open the pharma sector in Indonesia, which I think almost 27 companies you're going to be in Indonesia, which I think it will give a big opportunity and impact to infrastructure business and also to construction business. And then I will also want to ask you about construction. These two questions. So construction, because related to my first question. So in the construction, due to this new normal, how does they operate their business?
Right.
Thank you.
So
please.
Okay, thanks. So the first question is about Brebes, and to understand why Brebes, we need to see a little bit more about the infrastructure development in Indonesia and especially Java. So then there's two reasons why Brebes. One is that it is part of Central Java, where the minimum wage regulations are very low. So living costs are actually quite low in Central Java. So the minimum wage is also low, and people are actually quite hardworking, and they don't want any trouble. They don't like to protest, and all that. So Central Java has been a favorite place for investment in the past. But until a couple of years ago, the infrastructure between Jakarta and Central Java is not that good yet. But since a couple of years back, we have completed the toll road or the highway between Jakarta that goes all the way to Surabaya. So it's along the northern coastway of Java, and it passes through Brebes. Brebes is actually right near the border between West Java and Central Java. It's actually very close. If you take a car through this highway from Jakarta, it will only take you about 3 hours, or if you take the train, it will take you about 4 hours train ride from Jakarta. So it's actually very close. And this both the low wage and the work motivation of the people, and now coupled with infrastructure. So that's why Central Java is now very accessible by infrastructure from Jakarta. You have a second question? Sorry, Sam, I forgot. What was the second one?
My second question, because of this opportunity, construction will be going on. So how does construct? Hello, you there? You can hear me?
Hello.
Amri? Amri, you there?
Yes, I'm here. Yeah, I can hear you back now.
Yeah, I was saying about construction. So during this new normal, after this pandemic, we're going to start working. So how does the construction business operating, and how things going down there for construction industry?
Yes, actually, it's quite interesting because some of the public projects to develop infrastructure has been continuing. It's been going on. Of course, the government says, oh, they're you know, utilizing all the protocols like mask and all that, but you know, it's very hard to see. But some construction activities are still ongoing, and it's actually a good time to, I mean, you know, crisis like this, because construction takes time, right? And by the time the crisis, we rebound from the crisis, it would take maybe, you know, a month or a year. But then if you're ready with better infrastructure afterwards, it's going to be able to take you that much higher when we rebound.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. David.
Sorry, let me just answer a little bit more. I think there was also, you know, opportunities in the construction business, right? So I think we are, especially in the larger cities like Jakarta, we are going to see more demand for mixed-use development, a higher density, the middle class kind of apartments like the HDBs that you see in Singapore at the moment.
Correct.
In Indonesia, we only see very few apartments, so they are either upper scale apartments or the very bad public you know, low wage low income apartments. So now there's going to be more demand for the middle class apartments. So that's actually a good construction opportunity in Jakarta.
Okay, to add on a bit before I go to Pak David and Mr. Yao Sheng, Dr. Amri, since you touched on property, currently in Indonesia, when you rent out property is normally per year. So with this COVID-19 and also the new normal, will the property owners or is there any government you know, support in terms of, you know, renting out their property in terms of, you know, paying by 1 month or by quarterly, or, you know, is there any subsidy?
Yeah, we have been seeing that. So at the moment, the property industry is among the hardest hit as well. So not directly hit, but they're indirectly hit because the companies that are renting the space, then they cannot pay their rent, right? So yes, you're right that it's typically now the companies, they have like a 1-year contract or multi-year contract, and typically the payment is on an annual basis, and that is actually pretty hard. And it's not just for companies, even for people as well. If you rent an apartment, there's an expectation that you pay the rent upfront, like 1 year upfront, or even 6 months, and that is very hard for people, because then if you pay rent on a yearly basis, then you are basically taking it out from your savings. But if you pay rent on a monthly basis, then you can take it out from your monthly salary, right? So there has been a change, and there has been a growing number of startups working in the real estate company that they are providing. They are linking with financing with banks. So if the owner wants to receive a 1-year payment, then they you know, link up the connection with the bank. So the banks pay the property owner a 1-year payment, and then the renter pay monthly to the bank. But yes, we are seeing a lot more innovations now in multiple sectors, including the property sector in terms of payment. And actually right now, Katadata is doing a study, a very deep study with the Indonesian Ministry of ICT to understand how startups, digital companies are being affected by COVID-19 and what kind of strategies they are working on. So we're looking at them by sector, which sectors are experiencing hit, which sectors are actually thriving. And we hope to be able to launch the study sometime in a few weeks. So we'll keep you updated on that. Well, probably we're going to conduct a webinar with the ministry to launch the study on how the digital economy is impacted by COVID.
Thank you. Do update us on the EDIA event 2021. Yeah, hopefully can have it on virtual or, you know, on a physical event with the social distancing you know, being in place. Mr. Yao Sheng, Mr. Yao Sheng, you there? Maybe from Enterprise Singapore, maybe can you share, you know, some tips and advice, you know, for SMEs who already in the market and also who are new to the market, you know, what's your advice?
Well, I really like what Farid and of course Sheikh also did share quite a bit about your own experiences. First and foremost, I think what Farid shared about understanding the market segment, I think that is very, very critical. I mean, that really is all time what you need to do as a business. Like what he mentioned, it doesn't have to be targeting the entire Indonesia as a population, but really know who you're serving. At this point in time, I think what Katadata have also shared in terms of the current situation and some of the statistics, you can also tell basically that the segmentation of the market is quite clear. I really appreciate those data that was earlier shared by Katadata, and especially on the parts where it shows income inequality is going to be on the rise. In some of the discussions that I have with some companies in Indonesia, during this period of time, I think that that is quite apparent for businesses when you serve different segments and the kind of effect it has on your current business. So I mean, I just give an example. If you look at supermarket chains, you would imagine supermarket chains would do well generally across the board. People are going to queue, going to buy your general groceries. That sounds like a no-brainer, right? But when you actually talk to different players, you do get a sense that some supermarket chains do better than the others. Why? It boils down to the kind of target segment that they are actually serving. So if you talk to some of the supermarket chains that serve the mid-upper income segment, they will tell you, wow, business is brisk, I'm doing very well, people are queuing. Then when you talk to the others that serve, you know, your general mass market, I would say lower income to the mass market, they will tell you that they are facing a bit of a challenge. Business is not as good as it used to be. In the past, you know, if you talk about mass market, Indonesia, if you serve mass market, wow, your business is great, man. You have a big market. But now in such a crisis, then these companies tell you that, hey, I'm feeling quite a bit of a challenge because the income level has dropped. People at the bottom of the pyramid are not able to spend as much as they used to be. So that kind of give you an appreciation, you know, in terms of the different target segment, how that impacts on your business. So first and foremost, I guess when you're trying to think about the market, of course, COVID is going to be well, we hope it's going to not be here for too long, in the sense that the effect will not stay on for too long. But if you take a longer term view to Indonesia, then knowing your target segment and using this as a phase that will give you, you know, there's some impact on different segments. You've got to probably understand what segments you're going after and what kind of business strategies you're going to employ in order to win that segment that you want to reach out to. So that's just a bit of sharing of what I have based on my recent engagements. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Yashang. Really appreciate that. Pak David, as a business leader, Pak David, you there, Pak David?
Yes, Yom. Yes.
Yeah, as a business leader and also have exposure in the international environment. How's the new normal going for your business as a Katadata? You know, how's everything going down there? You know, because currently we all SMEs in Singapore can't travel down there. We just hear the news, you know, and at the same time we just read some online articles. But maybe you want to hear based on actual experience as a business leader from your side, Mr. David. Please, Mr. David.
Okay, it's okay. There are a lot of answers to this one particular question. Yeah, I mean, without I don't want to boast that we are not affected. Of course, we are affected like everybody else, and especially in the media industry, it is affected. The revenue compared to the target is still far off compared to the current target. However, we sort of determine this. I mean, I'm a capital market investor as well, a forex market analyst as well. So I sort of noticed something like this. But at that time, I was thinking more because of the trade war. Yeah, something like this will happen in 2020. I think around September or October, I looked at the chart. The Nasdaq and the Dow was at all-time high. it cannot break the resistance level at the time for almost 2 years. So I thought, I think this is overheating. Overheating is coming. So I told everybody in the company, get ready. The rain is coming. I don't know what's the reason, but the rain is coming. So starting from there, we have prepared our team. We have taken some precautions actions. We stopped the long-term investments, which still do not have certainty in terms of the revenue. Yeah, that's number one. And then we pivot some of our initiatives from offline to online. So, for example, these webinar sessions and everything, we pivoted a lot of our online annual events to webinars. So, as a matter of fact, we conduct webinars every two or three times in a week, and we invited all the ministers to join our webinars as well. And it has been giving us good exposures, and a lot of sponsorships started to come in to our webinars as well. So that's to answer your question. Yes, we are affected. However, I think we are very positive that we read the signal a lot earlier. We reschedule our manpower planning. We maintain our capex low and opex low. We reschedule a lot of programs, and I think that's the key. At the moment, one of my mentors said, "Cash is king, queen, jack, and even joker as well." So you gotta maintain your cash balance now. Okay. So I think that's my tips. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, before I end this session, I just got one last question. This is a bonus question for Farid, I think, from one of the participants give us. Since Farid was in the retail industry previously, even from offline to online, and now he's doing a lot of omni-channel, social commerce. What is the brick and mortar for retail in Indonesia and upcoming? Do you see a lot of big brands, in Indonesia will exit out since a lot of malls is shutting down and subsequently they're going to open slowly? So what's your take on that, Mr. Farid, on the retail industry and basically on the big brands also?
Good question. Because currently even Avana is focusing on this area now, because Avana is actually automations of social commerce. Yeah. So one of the things that we focus on is, of course, the big brands. There's two segments. One is the big brands. One is the UMKM, which is the SME. For the big brands, I think they have already started with their own divisions, where they started an e-commerce divisions or digitalization divisions. So for them to move or transition to digitization and get into from offline to online, it is much easier because they do have the resources and they're already doing it. Yeah, I mean, they already anticipate that. We also working with a couple of brands, big brands, to get them on board to serve the segment market for Indonesia. But again, it goes back again to the profile of customers that you serve. Of course, the middle to up is able to spend, and of course, the middle to low, the SES C and D probably will have challenges in terms of buying power. For SMEs, entrepreneurs, again, this is another set of challenges that we are facing. Number one, of course, is education in terms of adoptions of new technologies or even get them on board to digitization. So there's a lot of educations actually for these users for them to adapt. Of course, one of the key challenge is the knowledge. Even when they come on board, let's say they come on board on Avana social platform, we still need to educate to them, on how to market. That's where the digital marketing comes into play and etc. I think that is the major challenge. Even when they come on board, is the knowledge to how to market online. So that's key. Having said that, I just want to add on this part. There are a lot of opportunities for companies. I mean, if you are in the digital space or even digital marketing space from Singapore, you should look into Indonesia, where you can offer your services. there are plenty of opportunities because they are short of talented skills and knowledge of people in that particular segment, which we ourselves also struggling finding partners which has knowledge in this new, what we call in IoT 4.0 era and etc. So that's my take. Thank you.
So my next webinar, I should route you in again, Mr. Farid, to share on the talent side, or the opportunities,
Sure. I think, I mean, I always emphasize on talent because, I mean, end of the day is about people who can execute, people who can get things done, and how you control, I mean, not say control, how you manage the team to expand, because end of the day it's all about people. So I'm very focused on that.
Okay, just one last note, then we close this session. We are over 10 minutes. Mr. Kai, do you think there's any group or community in a startup segment for Indonesia, for SMS company who want to go into Indonesia? Do you have any community, other than Singapore and startup copy, other than Block 71, or do you have a WhatsApp group, that people can get in touch, for the startup?
Right. So same thing. Singchem has a WhatsApp community group.
Oh, okay.
So we have, but it's more of like an announcement channel. We're looking to start a community group whereby people can get involved and share ideas and connecting more together. I believe we'll be setting up something together with SBF and Global Connect.
Correct. Yes, sure. We'll do
build
that.
up this community.
Sure, you have to do that. Yeah, it's a good timing.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Thank you, everybody. On the closing note, I would say SMEs company in Singapore, please do Google into Enterprise Singapore website. They have a lot of government support. They have also office country desk in each country. And Indonesia, we have Mr. Yao Sheng, we have Mr. Khairul Anwar also is based in Jakarta and Surabaya. They have office both in Surabaya and Jakarta. As for Global Connect, we're going to set up an office in Jakarta itself, which will help the journey of SMEs company in Singapore to venture into overseas, especially for Indonesia. I'm managing for Indonesia office. And I really hope that you all can read through on the MRA grant and EDG grant that supporting Singapore company going overseas, which I think is all stated in Enterprise Singapore. And on the last note, I would say thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Farid, Dr. Amri, Mr. Amal, Mr. Jimmy, and David. Mr. David, thank you so much. And Mr. Kai, really appreciate all your information. Mr. Yao Sheng, thank you for your opening address. I really appreciate that, Mr. Yao Sheng. Any last note, Mr. Yao Sheng, for everybody down here? Any last note, Mr. Yao Sheng?
No, I'm good. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your time. See you guys again. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.